All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Unscripted. I'm your host, producer, Logan Landers, and joining me, as always, talk about some football, talk about our favorite teams as well. The man down below, the fired up Jay McLovin. What's up, Jay?
Hey, what's up, brother? Yeah, Lord, this weekend was just terrible for sports for me. Lost a lot of games. Astros didn't come through in the ninth. I don't understand it, but either way, we will rebound. Hopefully today will be a better day.
Fingers crossed. That's all we can hope for, Jay. That's all we can hope for. And the man down under him is our resident stat guy, Dustin Reese. What's up, man?
Oh, pretty much in the same boat as Jay. We'll just keep it short and sweet like that.
It's going to be a good show today. Hey, if y'all enjoy the episode, once again, like, comment, share, subscribe on the following social media platforms: Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, and on Twitch for weekly content. Some amazing shows we've done on there. And guys, let's just go and get right in. We're going to do our close to home segment. We can get out our events, our frustrations about our teams. So let's get it going. All right, y'all know how this works by now. 10 minutes on the clock is your maximum allotted slot. Jay, I will let you go first, my friend. Talk about your Astros, your Cowboys, Texas, whatever you want to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, the Astros now are 84-67 on the season. We took a loss last night to Baltimore in the ninth inning. I'll get into it in a second. Just to give you a quick recap, we are a game and a half up in first place over the Rangers and Seattle. The Rangers lost yesterday, and Seattle beat the A's. So now we're a game and a half of both of those guys. So the margin of error is shrinking as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, which is very close, and they're almost up on us. So tonight we got Gibson versus Brown. Gibson is 14-9 with the 4.98 ERA, 132 WHIP, and Brown is 11-11, 461 and a 134 WHIP. I mean, these guys, Gibson has a better record, but honestly, they're almost about the same pitcher in terms of their ERA and WHIP. So I fully expect to see another closely contested game tonight. Last night, as you know, Astros went into the ninth inning. I think we were up 7-5. And we wound up losing the game 8-7 on a 3-run dinger off of Mullins on Presley. And it broke my heart, man, because we were doing so good. Verlander went out there, pitched a pretty good game, only gave up, I think, 2 or 3 runs, struck out a few. You know, everything was going well. Montero gave up. So Verlander gave up 3. Montero gave up 2. And then Hector Neris come in, pitched a beautiful gem. Just struck the crap out of him. And then Presley comes in, puts 2 men on first and second with 1 out. And I'm looking at Dustin. I'm like, Dusty, get this dude out of here, man. Let's go to the bullpen. Presley don't have it. And I can feel it. Logan, I can feel it. I can, how you get that premonition that bad things are about. And I just kind of felt Presley just didn't have it tonight. And sure enough, Mullins came up and hit that dinger. And I know Heron, geez Louise, man. Guy hit a 5-hit game on us today, so he was on fire. But ultimately, man, sometimes Dusty. I love Dusty, but I hate Dusty because sometimes he just don't know when to pull a guy. He just leaves him in too long, and you can sense it. You can say like, no, Dusty, pull him. He ain't got it, Dusty. Dusty will ride this guy all the way to the damn dirt. We need to take at least 2 games away from the Orioles going forward. We got to win tonight. We got to win tomorrow in order to keep on pace and stay ahead in first. Because right now, Seattle's playing the A's, and Seattle's looking pretty tough right now. And I think they're going to wind up sweeping the A's. So every game is critical. We got to get these 2 wins. Then we play KC. And, normally I would say, oh, yeah, we're going to go in there. We're going to play KC. It's 3-game sweep. No, if you didn't watch the Astros when we played the A's and Kansas City Royals back-to-back, we only took 2 wins out of the 2 series. 1 win per series. And these are the last 2 teams at the bottom feeder of the league. That's how crazy inconsistent the Astros are right now. Logan, I'm pulling all my hair out, and I ain't got that much hair left to pull. Seattle plays the A's tonight, like I said. Then they play Texas. Then they play Houston. And then they play Texas again. So Seattle does have a very hard schedule. Matter of fact, Texas and Seattle are going to battle it out all the way to the end. And all I need Houston to do is just get a sweep, man. Win the 2 games in Baltimore. Give me the sweep in Kansas City. If you want a chance in hell at getting first place in this division. With that being said, our average right now is 260, but our ERA went from 3.78 to 3.99. Logan, let me say it again. We went from 3.78 to 3.99. Last year we had an ERA just a tad bit above 3. That's how bad our pitching is right now. It's not so much the starting pitching as it is our damn bullpen. Abreu got beamed in the arm on the last game of the Kansas City series, so we didn't play last night. We should hopefully get him back tonight. I hope we get him back tonight because Abreu and Hector Neris are really our 2 stars that are in our bullpen. And without those 2 guys, it really is going to be hard. Stanik's on the 15-day IL. That was another guy that we really needed. So the Astros, are struggling. Dubon had his 8-game hit streak come to an end last night. It is what it is, man. At the end of the day, Tucker's still at 27 home runs, 28 stolen bases, trying to get to that 30-30 club, got 106 RBIs. Tucker's still doing great things. But at the end of the day, folks, it ain't our hitting. Our hitting is doing just fine. Scoring is doing just fine. But this damn inconsistency in our bullpen, this inconsistency in our starting lineup is just killing me, Logan. It's killing me. And at the end of the day, man, it's going to be a rough race all the way to the end. I still have faith in the Astros in terms of getting to the playoffs. But honestly, when you're making a playoff push, you don't want to see inconsistency going into the playoffs. You want to see momentum builders. And right now, we just don't have a full momentum builder. So I'm very iffy if and when we do get to the playoffs. That's all I got.
All right.
Oh, one more thing. Dallas Cowboys. I just want to put one quick stat. Dallas Cowboys, 70 points. All the teams in New York, 10. 70-10. Let's let that sink in for a minute. Michael Parsons, you're an absolute animal. All
right. Dustin, I know you have some gripes about the Vikings, so now it's time for your weekly therapy session, my friend.
Let's just say I hate it here. We'll get to baseball in a minute, but yeah, starting with the Vikings. Who is the only team that has the second most passing yards by a quarterback that leads the NFL in touchdown passes, a quarterback that leads the NFL in completion percentage, and a wide receiver that leads the NFL in wide receiver yardage? Oh, yeah, that would be the Minnesota Vikings, as Kirk Cousins has 708 yards passing, 6 touchdowns in 2 games, with Justin Jefferson having over 300 yards receiving in 2 games. That puts him on a 2,500-yard pace, which I don't expect him to keep that pace up. But he said his goal was to get to 2,000 yards this year, and he's on pace right now for 2,500. The problem with the Vikings is right now is they forgot that football is you're actually required to hold on to the football. Oh. And they have 7 fumbles in 2 games. Jesus. And they have lost all 7 fumbles. And yet, both of their losses are 1-score losses, including a 6-point loss to Philadelphia on Thursday night, which I don't know how you guys felt about it. I was actually kind of surprised and impressed that Minnesota was able to keep it that close, especially when they fumbled 3 times in the first half. So I guess I'm more so okay with that loss as opposed to the one the week before against Tampa Bay when they should have just ran Tampa Bay out of the building. But you look at last year, Minnesota was a 13-4 team last year that was 11-0 in one-score games. You look at this year, they're 0-2, and they're 0-2 in one-score games. Things like that can flip from one year to the next, and Minnesota on paper still is one of the most talented teams in the NFC and one of the most talented teams in the NFL. But when you look at their upcoming schedule with the Chargers this week and the Chiefs on the horizon and some of these other teams that they have in the first 2 months of the season, getting off to a good start was crucial for them because I can honestly see them starting 1-6 with their only win coming against the Bears. If they get to 1-6, Kirk Cousins is not going to be around in Minnesota once that trade deadline comes. And then you're kind of starting to get to the point, what direction does Minnesota go from here? Do they tank and go after Caleb Williams? Do they just kind of ride out the rest of this season, try to get Justin Jefferson extended before the year is over, and then kind of figure out what to do when the draft starts next year? Or are they going to be kind of stuck in the position they've been stuck in really for the last decade where they're stuck in neutral? They don't really have a direction where they want to go. They have obviously star players like Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and some of these other pieces, but they're still a team that consistently wins 9 or 10 games. They make the playoffs, and then they lose right away. They can never seem to get over that hump, and I think that's kind of the tough place that Minnesota's in right now is because they don't know what direction they want to go in right now, and I think the next 4 weeks are going to ultimately decide what direction they want to go in. As for the Chicago Cubs, just when you think they can break your heart even more than they already have in the last 100-plus years, they had a 4-game lead in that number 2 wild card spot last Monday. They were 1 game behind Philadelphia for the top wild card spot last Monday. And in a span of 6 days, they went from being 4 games up to now being on the outside looking into the playoff picture right now. They lost 2 of 3 at Colorado, which is unacceptable when Colorado is the worst team in the National League. And then they go and get swept by Arizona, which was one of the teams that was chasing them, who now occupies that number 2 wild card spot. To make matters worse, Arizona took 3 of 4 from them at Wrigley Field the weekend before. So the Arizona Diamondbacks went 6-1 against the Cubs in the last 2 weeks and have basically made up 5 games in the standings because of it. Not only do the Cubs now find themselves in a position where they have to win and win as many games as possible, but the Cincinnati Reds, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Miami Marlins, who are all tied with the Cubs right now, have the tiebreaker over Chicago this year. So unless Chicago can finish ahead of 2 of those 3 teams, they're going to miss the playoffs. The next 6 games for the Cubs are very crucial. They have 3 with Pittsburgh starting tonight and 3 with Colorado starting Friday. So essentially, obviously, I need them to go 6-0. But anything worse than 5-1 at this point, I think, is going to be the kind of the final nail in the coffin for them because they have 3 games with the Braves and 3 games with the Brewers next week. So that last week of the season, to me, is kind of useless at this point if you don't go 5-1 this homestand. But I'm still going to be a fan regardless. It's just been a very frustrating September for me in terms of how the Vikings have started, in terms of how the Cubs have played the last 2 weeks, because for 5 weeks before that, they were 33-14 and were the best team in the National League. But here we are now, and now I get 12 more days to kind of sit and hope for a little bit of baseball into October.
All right. I'll keep mine short and sweet. Braves have sucked here recently, dropped 4 straight. We just been getting absolutely hammered. It's like we're just throwing batting practice here as of late. Teams have scored so many runs, I don't even care to look at the number. It's just not good. So hoping to snap our 4-game losing streak tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies. Like Dustin said, with about 12 or so games left. Like I said, our spot's already clinched. So my thing is that with like probably 6 games left, I would hope that we get this thing turned around, go into maybe a nice winning streak to go into the postseason, because God knows you do not want to be stumbling when you go into October baseball. So hopefully we can pick it up by then, but dang, I didn't think they'd be getting hit this hard. Definitely we know pitching's the lesser of the 2 goods that they have on their team. We know the offense is doing its thing still for the most part, but yeah, pitching ain't been so hot. They brought back, I believe, a reliever or 2 today. sent some guys down to AAA, so they're making some moves in the bullpen to try and shore things up before October rolls around. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the Braves. Matt Olson, I believe last time we talked, he set the Braves single-season franchise home run record, which is phenomenal. He's got, I believe, 52 on the year, which, I mean, my God, whoever saw that coming. I thought he was going to have a good season, but 52 home runs is insane. So once again, congrats to him. And yeah, I'll keep mine short about the Raiders as well. My God, I said it last week, Jay. I said, well, just in time, we're gonna be getting whipped by the Buffalo Bills, who were pissed off after that Week 1 loss. And God, was I right? Was I right? Just couldn't do nothing about that. So I'll just a week I want to forget about. And like I said, hopefully Week 3 we can get things back and rolling. Facing off against the Steelers, so have some history, have some bad blood there, but I feel more confident, I would say, going up against the Steelers than I would against the Bills again. So it goes in Week 3. Speaking of football, guys, we're going to do, of course, our recaps for our games that we talked about last week. So these were the 5 games that we talked about, who we thought was going to win, who we thought was going to lose. First one on the docket. Dustin, I'll let you give your thoughts first on the Packers and Falcons. We know the Falcons got a pretty exciting win, 25-24, winning it with about a minute left in the fourth quarter. Talk about this game and what you thought of it.
Well, I am definitely surprised that the Falcons won, especially when they were down 24-12 entering the fourth quarter. Jordan Love played okay. He had 3 more touchdown passes, so he's actually tied with Kirk Cousins for the NFL lead with 6. But he also only had 154 yards passing and completed less than 60% of his passes. That's got to be an area of concern right now for Packer fans because, yes, he's throwing touchdown passes, which is good, but when you're under 60% completion percentage, that's a concern because you need to be closer to that 62, 63% if you expect to kind of rack up the wins they're hoping that he can rack up. Desmond Ridder impressed me a lot. I know when we previewed this game last week, we were on the same boat that Desmond Ridder needs to show us a lot more at quarterback just because he really doesn't throw that much. And when he does, it's not for a lot of yards. Mm-hmm. Well, he threw for a lot of yards on Sunday. He almost had 300 yards passing. He had 3 or 4 great throws in the fourth quarter, which set his team up for 2 field goals and then obviously set his team up for the touchdown run that he ran in. So Desmond Ridder played, I would say, one of his best games since he was drafted on Sunday. Having Bijan Robinson in the backfield is a solid plus, and he's clearly showing why he was the best running back in this year's draft class. He's showing why a lot of people had him as the top running back in fantasy this year. He is legitimately an X factor, and when you look at the history of the Atlanta Falcons, he's probably the best running back they've had since Jamal Anderson. He's going to be a lot more agile than Anderson was. He's going to be a lot quicker than Anderson was, and he's going to be more versatile because he's a running back that actually runs passing routes like a wide receiver. But he's going to be that kind of every down back that Atlanta's been lacking since Jamal Anderson was there, and that having a running back of that capability is always going to help a young quarterback, which is very good for Desmond Ridder. Fun stat of the day before I hand this over to Jay.
Oh, okay. Since
starting as a junior at the University of Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder has yet to lose a home game.
Wow.
He was 26-0. He was 26-0 in college when he played at Nippert Stadium, and he is now 5-0 in the NFL when he plays at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
All right. Definite fan of home cooking is Desmond Ridder. Jay, what were your thoughts on this one? A bit of a surprise win from the Falcons going to 2-0 on the year.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I say a little bit different than Dustin kind of does. Jordan Love, he didn't lose this game for them at all. He didn't turn the ball over in terms of interceptions. He gave you 151, which I understand is pedestrian, but he did go 14-25. So he had a good completion percentage. He had 3 touchdowns, and he gave you 23 yards on the run. But what I liked about Jordan Love, specifically this game, and how I see him growing as a quarterback, is even though his yards weren't, close to 300, he did spread the ball around to 9 different wide receivers. So when you look at the ability that he has to utilize all the weapons that he has available, let's be honest, let's not forget that there was no Aaron Jones. There was no wide receiver one in Watson. So given the fact that he used what he had to his advantage, I mean, they only lost by a point to the Falcons, but let's be honest, let's not make Desmond Ridder out to be all that great either. You know, he's 19 of 32, 235. I mean, it's all right. But he had a touchdown and a pick. So, you know, he did have a turnover in that respect. Where I do agree is with stat guy is Bijan Robinson is finding his groove, man. I mean, the guy, you know, had 4 catches for 48 yards. So he is being utilized, and he had 19 rushes, 124. So he's being utilized. Kind of what I was hoping that Jahmyr Gibbs and Detroit would do as well, kind of something like this. And I think now that Montgomery is hurt, I think we'll start seeing more of Gibbs like this next game. But, you know, the problem I have with Desmond Ridder is you got a badass weapon over there in Kyle Pitts, and you're only using them two targets for 15 yards. To me, that's unacceptable. The fact in week 1 he didn't get Drake London involved is unacceptable. The time of possession, you know, that's where Atlanta, I think, won this game at 36 minutes to 23 minutes from Green Bay. Green Bay only had 17 first downs, whereas Atlanta had 27 first downs. You can see the disparity in yardage, right, because of that time of possession at 446 for Atlanta to 224 for Green Bay. So I think where Green Bay lost this game was it just didn't – I think they were missing Aaron Jones first and foremost in that run game, which would help their time of possession. And I think they also have, 84 total rushing yards? So that means Dillon isn't quite getting the job either, or they just completely abandoned the run. Either way, I think this was just, you know, I don't think this was a Desmond Ridder type of thing that got them to win. I think this was just good defense on the side of the Falcons. And I just think that Love was missing Aaron Jones as wide receiver 1. But at the end of the day, man, what I like about Jordan Love, which I was questioning about Jordan Love, is can he lead this team? And the fact that he's seeing the whole field and he's getting everybody involved, and he didn't turn the damn ball over, and he still got you 3 scores, which he got 3 scores last go around. This guy he's going to be the real deal. I don't feel that way about Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder is just not that damn good. He got lucky in this game. That's just straight up all it is. He had Bijan Robinson is the reason why they won this game. It wasn't Desmond Ridder, I'll tell you that for sure.
Can I say something quick before you go, Logan?
Yeah, you said everything you wanted to say. It's this Logan's turn. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm totally kidding.
I think the bigger story in Green Bay right now is what's going on with David Bakhtiari.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, David Bakhtiari basically crucified the NFL for having turf after Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
Yep.
Played at Chicago, which is a grass field, played very well. Now the Packers go to their first turf game of the season, and Bakhtiari refuses to play. So now the Packers have an issue on their hand where even Matt LaFleur said it this morning on his Tuesday morning press conference that he always does in Green Bay. Bakhtiari does not plan to play any games on turf this year. And 9 of the Packers' 17 games are on turf. That is Jordan Love's best offensive tackle protecting him. That is his best offensive tackle protecting his blind side.
True. That's
and
very
now
true.
You have a guy that's basically not only refusing to play on turf, but he could become a locker room cancer at this point because he's now giving players in that locker room the impression that they can decide when they want to play and what fields they want to play on.
That's a good point. And
I agree with that. I mean, I understand him. Yeah, I mean, I understand him not wanting to play on turf because there are a lot of injuries due to this damn turf crap. I wish they would just go to straight natural grass. But you know, at the same time, yo, brother, at the end of the day, you still paid to play. Mm-hmm. You still paid to play. And look, a lot of the league, they're not just going to cater their surfaces to your needs. I mean, you know, you just got to play or don't get paid, one or the other. So maybe they need to cut them, move on from them, and find somebody else.
Is David Bakhtiari going to be the new Kawhi Leonard and load management?
He's the highest paid player on the Packers, too. He's making $28 million this year, so they can't just cut him.
Yeah, and a guy who's making the most money is probably, I mean, honestly, probably the best offensive, you just argue player, just because how good he is on the line, who's not going to play in about half your games, like you mentioned. But who says that he isn't going to pay in half his? We'll see if they start talking some pay. But at the moment, like Dustin said, ain't looking good. Ain't looking good in Green Bay. My thoughts on this game. I think Bijan Robinson has done a very good job of adjusting to the NFL throughout 2 weeks. He looks like it's just coming to him naturally, and that it's not just the moment's not overshadowing him. I also think the Falcons' defense has looked a lot stronger this year. They pitched a shutout in the fourth quarter, allowing no points. Also in the first quarter, so they really toughened up when they need to. Like I said, we know the week one was the Jesse Bates show, but this one, like you said, like Jay mentioned, the time of possession really helped, which that's going to be their bread and butter. It's not going to be Desmond Ridder throwing the ball to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Those are your good options there, but we've seen over 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to see a heavy dose of the run. I mean, they ran the ball 45 times between Ridder, between Robinson, and between Tyler Algier. And it's worked for them. They're 2-0. They're winning ball games. So, and also, I think that there was one point in this game where the Falcons almost shot themselves in the foot. It was in the game-winning drive for them. They were going for the field goal, and it was, I believe, 4th and 1. And it would have been, I believe, like a 45-yard field goal. It's manageable. It's not like it's anything insane. But they decided to go for it, and they gave it to Robinson for, I believe, 7 yards. So, and then they kept marching down the field, and it was a much easier kick for Young Wei-Koo, who has been a tremendous kicker for Atlanta for quite some time now. But I think that's just, it was a gutsy call by Arthur Smith. It paid off for him. And like I said, they're sitting at 2-0 on top of the South in the NFC. And we'll see what they can do week 3 against the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell. Going to our next game here, AFC Showdown with the Dolphins and Patriots. Talk about this one, Jay. I'll let you kick things off.
Yeah, Miami versus New England. Obviously, like you said, Miami got this win. I think it's the first time since 2001 that New England has started out 0-2. So I'm pretty sure Bill Belichick at this point is having flashbacks to pre-Tom Brady. Tua had a pedestrian. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I right? I think Tom Brady. When did Tom Brady come in the league? Dustin, help me out with that. What year was it?
2001.
Okay, so I was right. I wasn't sure. I was trying to think it was in 2000, 2001 when I said pre-Tom Brady. So, okay. Yeah, so, Tua had a very pedestrian game. He looked a little bit more normal than he did in week 1 where Logan went off on Tyreek Hill for 44 points. So he definitely came back down to earth a little bit. He went 21 for 30, 249, and, of course, 1-1. Mostert, I think, was the key person there for Miami. Getting 18 rushes for 121 and 2 touchdowns. So Miami ran the ball well. Didn't really get as much on that passing game, but they ran the ball well. And you just got to go with what it goes. And also, let's not look past Miami's defense at 4 sacks and 8 QB hits. I mean, yeah, and 8 tackles for loss and the pick. So if you want to look at Miami's defense and then you want to look at the run game for Miami, I think that was ultimately the key for their success. And I think Bill Belichick knew in this game that his team just wasn't executing well. He knew it right from the very beginning. I think if I remember right, before they went into halftime, they interviewed him, and he was just not happy with the execution of his players. But with that being said, man, I thought Kendrick Bourne, they didn't get him nowhere nearly as enough involved as they did the last game prior to that. Parker, I thought, had a pretty decent game, Juju Smith-Schuster, but they just weren't executing as well as they should have, and there was a lot of missed opportunities. I think with Mac Jones, but yeah, man, 0-2. I know Rob Strite and a few other people are super happy right now.
I know one guy who is not happy.
Frankie might not be.
Yeah, that is the one. Dustin, what were your thoughts on the Dolphins going to 2-0, getting the win over their rivals and the Patriots?
Well, it's a big win for sure because I believe Tua is now 5-0 against the Dolphins since he's
still undefeated.
Started. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm very close to saying the Dolphins might be the team to beat in the AFC.
That's where I'm at, Dustin.
And you look at it, you look at the offense. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle on the outside. There's not another team in the NFL that has 2 of the 4 fastest wide receivers in football lining up on the outside. And there's not a secondary in the NFL that has 2 players that can honestly keep up with them stride for stride.
Yep.
Which is exactly why the New England Patriots tried that new defense on Sunday night where they were playing 3 safeties over the top instead of 2 safeties over the top, basically to take the deep pass away. And then Tua found other ways to beat him. But not only that, you have Raheem Mostert, one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. You have Josh Wilson, who they traded for the San Francisco 49ers last year, another fast running back, one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins team is built on speed. Week 1, they showed they can put up 36 points a game. They showed they can air it out and be the Dolphins of last year. Week 2, they showed they can be a more physical team. They showed they can slow the game down and kind of beat you in other ways. And ultimately, the reason why I think Miami could be the team to beat before the year is over, Jalen Ramsey's out. But Jalen Ramsey is expected to be back at some point in November or December.
Yeah.
You pair him with Eli Apple. You pair him with Xavier Howard. That gives the Dolphins 3 legitimate cornerbacks. But the key is Vic Fangio. One of the greatest defensive coordinators of the 2000s is in his 20th year as a defensive coordinator this year. He had the Bears defense in 2018 when they were one of the best defenses in NFL history. As the head coach of the Denver Broncos, granted the team wasn't winning a lot of games, Denver's defense was always a top 10 defense under Vic Fangio. Last year, Miami's offense was a top 5 offense, but their defense is ranked 23rd. If they have a top 5 offense this year, and then Vic Fangio does what he does and has his defense in the top 10, Miami's going to be as tough out as anybody in the AFC before the season is over.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it New England in this game that had the kick that got blocked? Did you see the way? Did you see the way that they did that though? The style in which they did it, where they had the dude start running parallel to the line of scrimmage, and then when the ball he came straight on.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I think we just saw something here. I think we just saw something here now that could be the new trend going forward.
Well, part of that was the guy that blocked that kick was on the Dolphins practice squad last year.
Yeah.
So he knew the little nuances.
He knew what the snap count was, and he was able to time the snap count, which is why he was running down the line, because he knows how Jason Sanders and the holder go before they snap it, which is why he was able to get the jump he did, because he could time the snap. I don't think any other team will really be able to do that.
But still, being able to run like that, as soon as you've already got your momentum already going, it's a timing thing. I still think that could be something that could be used in the future to start blocking kicks.
We'll see. We will see. My thoughts on this one, I think Mostert definitely won this game for Miami. He ran the ball over the place. He was tremendous. Like I said, Tua had a decent game. Wasn't anything to write home about, but 21 to 30 passing, that's solid for about 250. Only got sacked once. I mean, he had a solid day. It wasn't his best performance, but it wasn't like he was awful. But I definitely think that Mostert helped win this game for the Dolphins, helped them move 2-0. Jay, I will say your boys got it right. Get rid of Ezekiel Elliott just in time. In 2 games, he's got 12 carries for I think it's 42 yards. So yeah, you made a good move there. I will say that. But yeah, Patriots 0-2. A little bit of an odd predicament for them. We'll see if they can turn things around week 3. All right, next game we're going to be covering here is the 49ers and the Rams in this one. Let's go, Jay. What you want to think about this game?
Wow. There's a lot to say about that game. Number one, this was a game where the 49ers run was the star. McCaffrey, 20 of 116 and a touch. Debo had 38 and a touch. Purdy had 5 and a touch. I mean, their run game, the Rams could not stop him. I don't know where Aaron Donald was. I don't know. Maybe he still was in the locker room. I don't know. The dude only had, I think one play I think he was involved in. I mean, Aaron Donald was damn near almost he was a non-fan. He was non-existent. I don't know where the guy was, honestly. I thought San Francisco's defense also had a good game with 2 picks, a sack, and 6 QB hits. So I think if you again, it's another one of those Miami things, right? Where you had the run that was going crazy for San Fran. The defense was going crazy for San Fran, and Stafford just couldn't do a damn thing. And really, Nakoa still, oh my God, this guy is just tearing it up. I ain't gonna lie. For 15 at 147, Atwell 77 yards on 7. So the young cats for the Rams, I think they definitely have found their wide receiver duo. But at the end of the day, the defense just let them down, man. At the end, and again, Stafford, come on, man. You got to start. You got to do better than this, man. Especially when you got. I just felt like the defense was just getting weight, and maybe it's not so much that. Maybe it was offensive line if you want to even kind of look at it from that direction. But at the end of the day, man, I think the star of this game was McCaffrey for offense. But that defense for San Fran, hey, be quiet over there. That defense for San Fran was incredible.
Dustin, what you think?
8-0 and counting. That's what Brock Purdy's record is since he was inserted as the team's starting quarterback last year. And yes, part of that is because he's proven that he should have been a much higher draft pick than what he was. But that's also predicated on the success of Kyle Shanahan and his system. You've seen Jimmy Garoppolo in that system look like a Pro Bowl quarterback. You've seen Nick Mullins, who's basically a career backup, have a pretty good 7-8 game stretch in that system when he's had to fill in for Jimmy Garoppolo. So obviously whatever system that Kyle Shanahan has put in place in San Francisco, even back when he was in Atlanta and then back in Washington when he had Kirk Cousins, it works for quarterbacks because they seem to have the most success they can have out of that system. Puka Nacua is now my favorite name in the NFL. And it's going to be interesting to see how the passes get divvied out once Cooper Kupp comes back. Because obviously Cooper Kupp is still, I think, Matthew Stafford's favorite target, obviously. But now that Stafford has this connection with Nacua that he's had the past 2 weeks, how is that going to affect Cooper Kupp? And how is that going to affect the Rams offense? Because everyone knows that when Kupp is on the field, the offense goes through Cooper Kupp. I said last week that I thought San Francisco is the most complete team in the NFL, and I still feel that way. But I do feel, as of right now, that Dallas is the team to beat in the NFC, mainly because of that defense. Whatever Mike McCarthy told Dan Quinn this offseason, it's working because that defense looks like the 2001 Ravens team, I think it was, with Ray Lewis in them. That defense looks like that Ravens defense where it was pretty much pin your hair back and just line up and smack anything that moves on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that San Fran looks tremendous. Like you mentioned, Brock Purdy had another good day. Stats weren't, eye-popping, but he got the job done. McCaffrey, I mean, we've said that when he's healthy, he's one of the best, if not the best, running back in the league, and he continues to prove that. Through a short time in this season here. Like I said, San Francisco is just a complete team. And Jay, you mentioned, Aaron Donald didn't really have a whole lot. I mean, that's just a credit to the offensive line of San Francisco.
I agree.
I mean, Aaron Donald has been a top 5, the best, whatever you want to call him, defensive lineman in football, and you pretty much shut him out. I mean, that's a credit to their tremendous offensive line they have in San Francisco as well. I think San Francisco, they're looking really well. I think that Los Angeles put a better fight, I thought, than we gave them credit for. But I mean, who would have thought, that Puka Nacua was going to go for 15 grams for almost $150? Who would have thought that? I mean, like I said, Matt Stafford looks like his days might be 55 times you throw the ball. Look, I get that Cam Akers' days are numbered there. They're actively looking for a trade, but they got to figure something out. Like I said, they got to figure something out there in Los Angeles to want to get things turned back quicker than it would be. All right, on to the Monday night games. First one we had, Saints and Panthers. This one was a game, if you guys want to call it that. But let's go, Jay. Give your thoughts on New Orleans getting the win over Carolina 20-17.
Yeah, this obviously was not Carr's best game.
Nope.
But you could also say that Carolina, although their offense is anemic, their defense is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good defense. So I think you had a great defensive effort and you had a terrible offensive effort on the quarterback. I think that was the key to these games. If you want to break it down more, I mean, it was only by a field goal, but come on, look, man. You're playing Bryce freaking Young. This dude's a rookie, okay? I don't care. He's a rookie, and not only is he a rookie, but he's an undersized rookie, okay? I expected more out of you than this, especially on the defensive side. I really did. 21 out of 36 for Carr for 228 and a pick. Again, I thought the defense bailed them out versus a weak Panthers. And I think that's the reason why the Saints won. They won because Bryce Young is a rookie. He's undersized. And their defense for the Saints is really good. And that's really what got them through this game. Bryce, again, like I said, looked like a rookie. But he didn't throw a pick. And that's the one thing. If I'm taking away a positive from Bryce Young this week, is that he didn't throw a pick. But Bryce Young, hey, Bubba, that crap you're pulling over in Alabama, it ain't going to work in the NFL, son, and you ain't Drew freaking Brees. So wake up. And again, Logan, I think we all know that this class, outside of Hendon Hooker, I'm going to give Hendon Hooker a pass only because he hasn't played yet. He was injured. But the rest of this damn QB class, Stroud, garbage. Rice, in my opinion, garbage.
Richardson
this was a terrible QB class. I think the next class is going to be the class to look at. Caleb Williams, Penix, and Drake May and company. I think that's going to be the better class. This class, outside of Hendon Hooker, I'm giving him a pass, is really looking kind of weak right now. There aren't no Joe Burrows, let's put it that way. There's no Justin Herbert, let's put it that way. Panthers defense was, again, like I said, the bright spot, I thought, for Carolina. But, again, you had a defense. You had two good defenses. You had one crappy offense because of the rookie. And then you had one good quarterback who had a crappy performance. If I had to summarize this Saints versus Panthers, honestly, it was a very boring game. Olave, I thought they waited too long to truly get him involved in it. He didn't really start coming on, or they didn't start really targeting him until more towards the end of the game. But if you look at this one, man, damn, son. Number one, Saints, Panthers. I thought Atlanta in there. These are all just weak-ass teams that have gotten lucky, right? New Orleans has gotten lucky. They're 2-0 because they played a weak Panthers. Atlanta's lucky because they played a weak-ass Panthers and a weak Jordan Love because, Jordan Love is in his rookie year. So all these teams are somewhat 2-0 and we're all getting excited about. They're just weak teams that have played weak teams, okay? Let's just call it what it really is.
Dustin, your thoughts on this awful week, whatever Jay wants to call it, NFC South showdown?
Well, I think we all expected Bryce Young to struggle, and that was one of the things we talked about when we were previewing this game was how much the Saints defense could give him a problem. Not only because he's undersized for a quarterback, but the Saints defense gives a lot of people problems. So even though he completed 22 passes, when you're only averaging 4.6 yards per completion, I don't think teams really care how many times you throw the ball because it's going to take you 3 completions to get a first down at that rate. So he had 153 yards passing, which is definitely not going to cut it. Miles Sanders, 14 carries for 43 yards. I think the Panthers are finding out real quick that this is not the same offensive line that the Philadelphia Eagles had where you can get 5 or 6 yards per pop. And I think that was part of the reason why Miles Sanders had the success that he had. It was because he was behind that offensive line in Philadelphia. And I think right now the Panthers are finding that out the hard way, that he's not going to be that same type of player in Carolina. Your big offseason acquisitions, DJ Chark at wide receiver, 1 catch, 15 yards. That's not going to get it done. Your other big acquisition this offseason was a aging 33-year-old Adam Thielen, who led your team in receiving with 7 catches for 54 yards. That's more of a number 2, number 3 production as in terms of a number 1 wide receiver production. So I think even with Frank Wright as the head coach, who is supposedly supposed to be an offensive-minded head coach, I think it's going to be a struggle all season for Carolina. But it pains me to say this because if they end up with the number 1 pick, they don't even get it because it goes right back to the Chicago Bears, who we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But Carolina, I think, is going to be more of a 3 or 4 year process. They have so much work to do on that team. They need to figure out what area they want to address first, take care of that first, and then address the second part of that team after that before they can kind of get back on track. And when it comes to the Saints, I agree and I disagree a little bit with Derek Carr struggling. Yes, he is struggling, but we have to keep in mind that he's in a completely new system this year. He's been with the Raiders for 11 years. He's been basically with Josh McDaniel's system last year, and then he had, I think, 2 or 3 systems before that. So he's in an entirely new system, which we've seen even with veteran quarterbacks, it takes them sometimes 3 or 4 weeks to kind of get used to that new system. But he's also missing Alvin Kamara.
I say he got one more game, I think, there.
Alvin Kamara is arguably the Saints' most important weapon on that team. And that takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback because you can use him as the running back. You can use him in the screen game. You can use him on wheel routes and a lot of different things that other running backs can't do. So the first, I think he's suspended 4 weeks, is it?
I thought it was 3. I thought it was 3, wasn't it?
If it's 3, so he's out one more game.
He's still out for at least a game.
I think it's too early to kind of grade Derek Carr just because he doesn't have Kamara. Once he has Kamara on that team and we see how he kind of utilizes Kamara and see what that connection is with Kamara, then I think we can start grading Derek Carr a little bit more because I think once Kamara is inserted into this offense, it's going to open up a lot more things for Derek Carr, which is going to obviously open up things in the passing game for him.
We'll see how it goes. And our final game here, my thoughts was, thank God this was the first game. It was 6-3 at halftime, all field goals. I think the majority of America switched over to the Browns and Steelers. I mean, we can talk about the game. I felt like that was kind of second fiddle. But yeah, Steelers got the win in this one. Final score was 26-22. Dustin, if you want to give your thoughts on just the game in general and obviously what happened.
Well, I'm going to touch base on what happened first. Nick Chubb is one of the most beloved players in the NFL. He's been that way since he's been drafted because he's not a very outspoken player. He's one of those players that pretty much just shows up every day, goes to work, works hard, and does his job. You never hear him complain about anything. You never hear him talk about his contract. You never hear him throw anybody under the bus. He's literally just the perfect teammate, a lot of people say, just because he's there to do his job. He's there to support everybody, and he's there to try to help his team win. And now he's not only going to not be able to help his team win the rest of this year, but you have to start looking at next year. Because when you look at that injury and what Jay said pre-show about the artery situation and things like that, it reminds me a lot of that Alex Smith injury in Washington where it took Alex Smith almost 3 years to come back. And yes, Nick Chubb has had this injury before his senior year in college, but that was more of a he planted wrong and he did it as opposed to a high-low hit where you have about 600 pounds of weight that's basically bending your leg the wrong way. I know it was not an illegal hit, and I know it was not a dirty hit, but I do expect the NFL to kind of look into this now and make some sort of rule saying you cannot do high-low hits anymore because we see it every year. Whenever there's a high-low hit, somebody ends up hurt with a significant ankle injury, with a significant knee injury, or something along those lines. And it's because when you're a 230-pound running back and somebody's at the bottom of your legs basically trying to tackle you, and then somebody hits you from the top of your body, you're not going to go anywhere, and your body can't take that big of a blow. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to kind of look into that and maybe make some – I don't expect it to be outlawed, but I think it's going to be make some minor changes like that, or the referees are going to be required to blow the whistle sooner for like a forward progress being stopped, so those kind of hits don't happen. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the game itself, it's kind of what I expected. Cleveland and Pittsburgh games are always very sloppy because they're historically known for their defenses. George Pickens made a heck of a play, and he's starting to emerge as a legitimate number one and probably a top 10 receiver in the NFL right now. Pittsburgh's defense showed up with T.J. Watt, pick 6 on the first play of the game, so that makes life easier for Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett. But if you're a Cleveland Brown fan, you have to start worrying about Deshaun Watson. You dished out all this money for Deshaun Watson, knowing that he was not going to play until, the last 6 weeks last year. So you kind of threw last season out the window. You had an entire offseason with your team this year to kind of get on the same page, and he looks like garbage right now. And if you're Cleveland, now you're sitting there like, we just gave this guy $250 million to look like garbage. Why didn't we just give it to Baker Mayfield, who actually got us the playoffs? And even though he looked like garbage, he was at least fun watching.
And also, Baker ain't looking that bad this year.
No, he's not. And
he's actually looking pretty decent. As much as we ragged on him, he's not looking too bad.
No.
All right, Jay, give your thoughts on the game with the Steelers getting the win, close 26-22 game, and also your take on the Nick Chubb injury, which, look, he's going to be out for the whole year. That is pretty much confirmed. We don't know what the exact injury is, not that I've seen, but if you've seen it, if you heard the fan reaction, it was sickening. It was not good at all. Jay, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do like Dustin did. And I'm going to address the injury first, and then we'll talk about the game.
Right.
The best case scenario is he just tore the 3 ligaments. He comes back, next year and continues his career. That would be the best case scenario here. What I think could possibly be the situation is that he's going to possibly lose that leg. I think Nick Anderson I think Nick Chubb is a very viable candidate to be an amputee. And the reason why I said that, everybody knows that there's like Dustin alluded to, there's an artery that runs behind your knee. And if you rupture that artery, they have to amputize your leg in order to cauterize the artery. That's just going to happen. So, this game really has no bearing as to anything as compared to what could possibly be the worst case scenario for Nick Chubb. And I just want to be the first one to say my heart breaks for him. And I really pray hard that he is just able to repair those ligaments and we continue mission, because it would be absolutely devastating if he has to have an amputee and go that route. Although you're not losing your life, thank the Lord, but still you're losing your income and you are losing some of your mobility. That's a huge thing. So hearts and prayers out for Nick Chubb, and we hope that it's just ligaments, and we hope that artery has not been ruptured, and he can continue where he left off. With that being said, the Browns did lose the game 26-22. I think if Nick Chubb had been there, I don't know that they necessarily would have won this game, because Ford stepped in right away and still put up pretty good numbers on the run game. I think at the end of the day, this game comes down on Watson. Well, you can put it on Watson, and you can also put it on the O-line as to why they lost this game 26-22. Watson went 22 of 40, 235, touchdown and a pick, but he got sacked 6 times. Now, either A, Cooper and company aren't getting open, or B, he's just holding on to the ball too damn long or trying to force the issue, or what I think is the issue, lack of calling audibles to go to a different play. Either way you want to cut that cake, it's still a piece of crap. And ultimately, the decisions that happened in that game fall on Watson. And I got to tell you, Logan, he had a lot of success out there in Houston up until that scandal. And ever since that scandal, everything just looks horrible for him. And I have yet to really see the old Deshaun Watson of Houston come back to reality. And it's not from a lack of weapons. He's got plenty of weapons. Elijah Moore, Cooper. He had Chubb, but now he's going to have Ford. I mean, he's got weapons. It's not like you don't have weapons. George Pickens was huge. So if you want to say part of it was the defense and the fact that they didn't get that pick, and George Pickens runs 75 yards and gets a touchdown and ultimately gets 4 catches for 127, you can say that too. But ultimately, I think Watts and that Steelers defense was too much for Cleveland to handle. I think Watson did a terrible job calling the audibles to get out of it. And I'm putting this as a twofold. Defense was key for the Steelers, and Watson's lack to call audibles and call a different formation, especially when you're seeing them stack heavy on the right side and you don't audible out of that crap. What's wrong with you,
Jay? Is it too early to say? And this is just purely stats. CJ Stroud has looked better than Deshaun Watson in 2 games. CJ Stroud's a rookie.
Something.
He's a rookie. Looking at the numbers. Deshaun Watson, 55% completion percentage. CJ Stroud, 63.7. Looking in terms of total yardage, Deshaun's only at 389. Meanwhile, CJ Stroud almost threw for that in a game. He's at 626, which is top 5 in the NFL currently. Deshaun's 2 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. Stroud's 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's looked better through 2 games. There's I don't know how, but he has. You got a $250 million player, the richest contract at the time, and you got a rookie who's played in 2 games, who's looking better. Now, granted, it is 2 games. So I'm not saying anything like that, but early in the season, the numbers don't lie. So, as for this game, Steelers got they got a fumble recovery to get the win. Like Dustin said, sometimes it is a sloppy mess, and that's exactly what was Cleveland's downfall here. Just got to protect the football. There's nothing more to say other than that. And when Cleveland fumbled the ball, Jay, 4 times, and you lost it 3 times, not the best. And Deshaun also lost 2 of those fumbles, so not a good game for him. Not a good game.
And Jay, what you were wondering too before, Jay, Chubb's artery is intact, so you don't have to worry about that.
All right, good.
Initial reports right now are he's got a dislocated knee, torn ACL, MCL, and LCL.
Which I believe is the same one he had in college.
Well, he tore all 3 ligaments. Like, every ligament in his knee is gone. Yeah. Dislocated.
I don't know if it was the LCL. I think it was the PCL he tore in college.
Yeah, so he's got every ligament in his knee is torn. Knee is dislocated. Ankle is dislocated, and his fibia is fractured.
Oh, my God.
So, like, his entire leg is pretty much jello.
You won't see that dude for about 2 years.
No, and just people were comparing it to, like we said, the Alex Smith injury, but also, the Joe Namath injury, which is, a lot of people say it's like the worst one. But I said Willis
McGahee.
Yeah,
if you remember Willis McGahee at Ohio State when he did basically the same thing, he was never the same after he got to the NFL.
No,
granted, he was done this before, but getting hit by somebody as opposed to planting and doing it is completely different.
Yeah. My final thoughts before I kick it to y'all for your final thoughts. Like I said, we're glad that his artery is intact, but it is going to be a very, very long road for Nick Chubb to come back and to be effective if he does decide to come back, which we all hope he does.
Yes.
He's 27, going to be 28 into the year. So, unfortunately, as we know for running backs, once you go on that later side of 25, your career is already kind of winding down, especially in years that we've seen. So, hopefully, he can come back. And like I said, people are saying a year, but it might be longer. A year is just the timetable that everyone says, but it could be longer just based on the severity of this one. And like we had touched on in college, also suffered a major knee injury to that same leg back in 2015 when he was at Georgia. We just want him to, first and foremost, before football, to just get healthy so he can, run around and just enjoy life. And if he does decide to come back to football, which we all hope he does, an electric running back, a great player, an even better human. You never hear a bad word about the guy. You just hear about all the good things he's done. We certainly wish him the best. We hope that his recovery goes well, his therapy goes well, and we want to see him back on the field one day. But he decides to hang up the cleats and say, hey, I'm good. He's left a tremendous mark on the game. Jay, your final thoughts in general on week 2 of the NFL?
Yeah, my week 2 is Dallas continues mission 2-0. We got Cardinals next week. So Dallas, I'm definitely not on that bandwagon by any means. I want to see when they actually start playing some real competition. The Giants were no competition. The Jets, because of the loss of Aaron Rodgers, was no competition. I highly doubt Kyrie Murray-less Arizona is going to be competition. So ultimately, I think Dallas is getting free passes at this point up until we actually play a team that is worthy. But I do want to say, Michael Parsons, you're making a hell of a case at the beginning of this season for Defensive Player of the Year. Dak Prescott, you still suck. And CeeDee Lamb, you're great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Dustin, final thoughts.
Well, the NFL season has never disappointed us, and I don't think it's going to disappoint anybody this year. But I want to just touch on the Colorado State game from Saturday night. And I think, Jay, you've said this too, that you kind of want to see Shedeur Sanders kind of face adversity and things like that.
Absolutely.
Colorado faced adversity on Saturday, and they passed. Travis Hunter goes out hurt, and now it looks like he's going to be out for, I think they said 2 to 3 weeks with a sternum injury. They didn't really say what it was. They just said it was something with the sternum. I think it was like a bruised sternum or something like that. Shedeur Sanders threw his first interception of the year. Pretty much looked very pedestrian at best through 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden the fourth quarter in the overtime turned it on and looked like the Shedeur Sanders that we've seen the last year plus going back to his Jackson State days. But next week is the test. The week after that is the test. They are at Oregon this week. That will not be easy. And I believe they're at USC the week after that. If they go 1-1 in these 2 games, I think it's safe to say that Colorado will be in the Pac-12 championship game with most likely USC, because I think USC is the best team in that conference. And you can probably start making the case that Deion Sanders is a legitimate coach, Shedeur Sanders is a legitimate Heisman candidate, and that Colorado is going to be a team that's not only a force this year, but they're going to be a force for as long as Deion Sanders is there.
All right. Well, there we go. If you guys have enjoyed the episode today, like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, Jay, Dustin, pleasure talking some sports with y'all each and every single week. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. We'll talk to you again on another live episode.